It's my dream to set up a tavern and celebrate the day of Halloween with my friends. Unfortunately, I am dead, or the undead if you prefer, and my friends are likewise undead. A tavern of just us unwanted creatures would be a death warrant, but I'm not going to let that stand in my way. We'd be pretty safe if we hid in a tavern for the living. I did own a tavern during my living life. I don't remember at the moment how I did it, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. And blending in can't be too hard. So I put on my nicest, least bloodstained shirt, hid my visible brain with a bandage, and got to work. First step was setting up the tavern. It took me a while to remember how to move tables, but I got there eventually. I even made sure it was well lit. I was quite proud of myself for remembering that one. I opened up the tavern with some trepidation. The only thing I had to serve was gruel, but I did get a steady flow of 6 customers. At one point they started complaining about the mess, and I realised I should probably start cleaning this place. There's probably nothing more suspicious than a tavern that is a mess, and it's too early to be caught now. They all started asking for water. I could have sworn there was enough water in the gruel, but apparently that wasn't enough. Turns out the living are quite fussy, and there is a steep learning curve to this tavern running business. Towards the end of the first day, I had someone accuse me of being a cultist, which is not quite as bad as the truth, honestly. It would have been a lot worse if they'd said I was dead. Still, I don't need those kind of rumours spreading about while I'm still finding my feet, so I loomed over them all until they left. I ended day 1 by decorating. I put in a new table and bought some cobwebs. I need some comforts in life, and maybe the living will just assume I'm bad at cleaning. I can't be perfect, after all. Overall, day 1 was a success. It's still pretty early to get my hopes up, but no one had discovered me, and things were going well. At the start of day 2, I opened up the tavern and immediately got insulted. And that's when I realised something has to change. I cannot keep serving gruel and water, so I set up a meal plan for the 31st. Mead is a pretty Halloweeny drink, and I have vague memories of being fond of lasagna when I was alive, so mead and lasagna it is. I'm getting quite fond of beating people with broomsticks. I needed space for my cooking, so I saw the end of day 2 out by unsealing the crafting room. The person I bought this tavern from said it was haunted. It is now. The only thing I could make at the start was porridge. Barley porridge. Is barley a start? Haha. But from small acorns come meat lasagnas or something. I start day 3 by setting up a malt machine, getting ready to start making ale. I got startled by a cat walking in when I was on my way out. This sort of thing usually happens to witches, but I decided I could take care of the little confused thing until it figures out where it should go. I named it Garlic, for now. Day 4, I set up a brewing barrel. Like the malt machine, I don't need it for mead, but making ale might trigger some of my memories. And I made more porridge because the tavern goers need to eat. The rest of day 4 I spent rushing around after people. Word must be getting around because I had a steady flow of customers, including ones I had to beat off with a stick. I didn't get much looming in today, I was too busy, but it's essential that I get a reputation for good customer service before the 31st, or it'll just be us undead at this party, and that won't be fun for any of us when the hunters come to take us out. I'm starting to get worried at this point. I need to get more living customers, so I set up another table. And a brewing machine. My mead knowledge is starting to return to me. I know I can make mead in this thing. And lo and behold, that night I dreamt of the tavern, but more importantly of the mead and how to make it. Early in the morning I saw Garlic sulking in the corner. It was not in the plan for my tavern, but I bought a bed and a bowl for him. If he's going to wait around here for somewhere else to go, he may as well be comfortable. As I was thinking about what I could feed Garlic, I remembered a recipe for stuffed chicken. I'm sure that's just one of those strange memory quirks and my stuffed chicken doesn't actually taste like cat food, but I wouldn't know. My diet is slightly different these days. I set up the bed and the bowl. Garlic didn't care. Day 5 went by uneventfully. I moved around my tables at the end of it. Apparently the living are super fussy about how they sit, and my previous bench location just wasn't good enough for them. Before the day was over, I ordered some ingredients to make mead, and some fish. I can stuff a fish just as well as a chicken, and it will sell better than plain old porridge. Day 6 passed in a blur of mopping up spills, but the fish is selling well. Day 7, I began aging my ale and mead. After a full day in the tavern, I checked it, and then remembered that aging drinks takes a lot longer than a day. I set up a little farm while I was waiting. I spent day 8 expanding the farm and checking on the aging barrels. On day 9, my drinks were finally ready. I put them on the tap and opened up the tavern with high expectations. They were met. The drinks went down a treat. Not bad for a zombie with no taste buds. I had another cultist accusation. I would have loomed. I would have loved nothing more than to have loomed. Unfortunately, my hands were full. Then the cheeky git had the nerve to ask for a drink. I gave it to him. At the end of day 9, I bought some more tables. I think I can take on a few more guests. Day 10 was spent reorganising. I quite like the setup that I settled on. It's perfect for the Halloween celebrations. Just 21 more days to go. The next 2 days passed in a blur of whacking people over the head with a broom. Day 13, unfortunately a Saturday, not a Friday, is when things started to get interesting. It started as a normal day. I got up, checked the calendar, gave garlic some water, put some fish on, and opened the tavern up for the day. After a couple of minutes, I noticed a few unique patrons, including one of my fellow undead. He was less disguised than I was. His brains were fully exposed. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. If a bounty hunter does come in, maybe they'll assume it's just really good makeup. There are enough of the living here to make even the weirdest guests blend in. Seeing so many of my fellow horrors about gave me the confidence to venture further in my adventures. Under a fog of darkness, of course, I stumbled across a ranch. I can buy beef here when it's open. For the sake of self-sufficiency, I was tempted to buy myself a chicken coop. Imagine lasagna noodles made with tavern fresh eggs. The price tag spooked me more than the living ever will. On my way back home, I stumbled across a ghost. He introduced himself as Gas, a mixologist. He seemed surprised by me. I guess I disguised myself a little too well if a ghost didn't recognise my obviously dead state. But then I suppose even the living dead could be considered mortal to a ghost. Anyway, he gave me a recipe of one of his own brews, Ghost Breath. I've never heard of this gas fella before, so I'm not sure if his creations are what I want to serve on an important day such as Halloween. I did check out what he was selling before I left him though, and bought some very nice candles. When I got back to the tavern, I looked at the cocktail recipe he'd given me. It involved mead. I had plenty of that. The lime and the blueberries were a problem though. Still, I thought I'd give it a shot, just for the fun of it. So I spent day 14 looking around for any sort of berry or green citrus, and found that this place has a noticeable lack of any limes, and absolutely no blueberries at all. I eventually found a handful of limes, but nowhere near enough to make 100 vials of this stuff that Gas wanted me to make. I bought myself some blueberry seeds anyway. Even if I don't have enough limes, even a few vials sold had to be better than none at all, and I wanted to stay on this ghost's good side. Especially if he's as important as he said he was. Day 15, I was busy running the tavern, just waiting for the blueberries and limes to grow. Still just serving porridge, fish and mead. The lack of looming I was doing was starting to wear me down, honestly. This tavern business was getting tricky to run alone. The blueberries grew ripe on day 16. Still no sign of the limes. I did have that handful I picked a few days ago though, enough to make 10 vials of the ghostly breath. And my mead stocks were doing great. I put the ghostly breath in the tap and opened the tavern. I don't know what I was expecting, but this drink was popular. Everyone seemed to love it. I eventually sold out just after noon. With the arrival of the more spooky creatures of this world and the complete lack of surprise or care of the living, I thought it was about time to settle the tavern more firmly into the magic world. With a magic broom. The perfect tool to keep floors clean, and would hopefully free up some of my time that I could spend focusing on something else. And best of all, despite it being broom-shaped and therefore the perfect weapon, it won't take away my favourite pastime of whacking people out of the tavern. I wanted to make more ghostly breath because it was quite a good earner, but I couldn't rely on the wild limes. So I bought some lime trees, I harvested my blueberries and set up a lime tree farm. Hopefully I should be able to start mass producing limes. At one point I found a turkey. I whacked at it with a broom, not quite as satisfying as beating up customers, but almost. I made some turkey steaks. That went straight on my Halloween menu alongside the lasagna. I went back to gas several times to buy more decorations, including candles and lanterns, and I set these up in my tavern. It kind of gives it a more subtle Halloweeny theme. I didn't want to scare off the living too much, so I didn't go overboard with gravestones. I also finally remembered how to make lasagna. Minced meat, pasta dough and bechamel sauce. It was quite a lot, but I was determined that I'd get it done. On day 22 though, I'd had enough. I was running back and forth, cleaning tables and serving drinks, and the living had the audacity to complain that the drinks were watered down. It was water. At the end of the day, I went straight to the Craig's board and put an ad in for a new bartender. Got a few responses, but one in particular stood out to me. He claimed his name was Dennis Cox, but it's obviously Sam Winchester. I'm not sure what he's doing here, or even if I want his brand of trouble around my tavern. But I hired him anyway. I obviously couldn't make Sam serve porridge and fish with the occasional turkey steak. So I ran down to the farm and bought some high quality beef, which I turned into actual beef steaks. I also expanded the farm to plant some garlic and onion. It's time to finally stuff some chickens. I didn't say no to the next turkey I saw though. I have to have some turkey steaks, they're popular. The 23rd was Sam's first day on the job. He struggled with the water. But besides that, he did fantastically. I relished being able to loom again. Until the table cleaning called me away. But it was better than it was before. On the 24th morning, my limes finally grew in. I had quite a few of them at this point. I also harvested my onions, garlic and wheat that I'd got. I was almost ready for Halloween. I was waiting on just a few more recipes now. I made some more ghostly breath and stuffed chicken. Filled up the tavern with fish and learnt how to make tea. I wonder if it's weird drinking something out of your own skull. I made some flour of wheat so I could make pasta dough, and bought some olive oil and tomato seeds so I could start making my tomato sauce. At this point, the only thing I really needed was the milk, which I could buy from the farm. In the morning of the 25th, I bought some cow milk, beef and eggs. With that, I made mincemeat, butter and bechamel sauce. The only thing I was missing now was the tomatoes, which took their time to grow, honestly. I had another cultist rumour, so I stood over him. I knew he was regretting his life choices when he said he needed to stock up on rations. On the 26th, I finally served 100 ghostly breaths. After seeing Gas and telling him about my success, he gave me a recipe for his next project. Something that involved poisonous mushrooms. I don't think killing off my living guests in such an obvious way would do the tavern much good, so I set up a little tea field and planted some tea leaves. I had to serve something other than water and alcohol to drink. On day 27 I said hello to Garlic. He'd been here for quite a while at this point. It seemed like he was still waiting for his forever home. Towards the end of day 27, one batch of mead had finally fully aged. It wasn't a lot, only 20 portions, but it would be something to serve alongside the tea. The tomatoes were finally fully grown on the 28th. With these done, I could make my meat lasagna, 100% fresh. Kind of. Most of the ingredients had been sat around for a while now. So I'd got my lasagna, I'd got my tea, and I'd got my mead. I'd even got turkey steaks. I was ready for Halloween. The dawn of the 31st was beautiful, a clear day that made you glad to be the undead. I set up my candles and opened up the tavern. The day started off slow, but the lasagna and the tea was an instant hit. I even made a sweet pie, just for the fun of it. The real fun, though, came in the evening, when the dark of the night set in and the tavern lights came on. I think I did a pretty good job decorating this place. Even Sam looked happy. I kept my tavern open for longer than I should have done. It was close to 2 when I finally closed up. However, I did make a profit of 6 gold coins, and none of my undead friends died tonight. I cannot say the same about the living. I'd call that a success. I said goodnight to Garlic on my way to bed. We saw a lot of witches in the tavern, but he's still here at the end of the day. I think Garlic is staying.